Welcome back. We are Gentlemen United, and you are in the Man Cave. In our show tonight, I'll be speaking to a local celebrity and my friend Chris Mason. As always, for those watching this broadcast live on YouTube, feel free to add your comments and questions in the comment bar. Joining us tonight is Chris Mason, and of course you, our viewers. I'm Sean Best, and I'm your host and moderator. Hey Chris, what's up, man?
How's it going, man?
It's going. Paying the bills.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
All right, Chris, I've got a whole bunch of questions for you here. I know a lot of my viewers are excited about this show and about meeting you. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to get into it, and every once in a while I'll take a quick stop to see if there's any comments in the comment bar or questions for you, and we'll try to throw them into the show as well.
Sounds good.
Cool. All right, so Chris, tell us a little bit about Chris Mason. Where are you from? Where did you grow up?
From West Philadelphia.
Yeah.
I grew up in West Philadelphia. I actually wasn't born there, but yeah, West Philly. That's where my family, the core of my family is. That's where I grew up, and I graduated from Central High School. Went to college at Florida A&M University. Go Rattlers.
Yeah,
you gotta feel that right now. And I was an IT major when I was a CIS major when I was there, and played football also. Was a walk-on. We had a pretty good team when I was there. We went to the Heritage Bowl a couple times, to the playoffs. So we actually weren't too shabby. Lately, we've been struggling a little bit. But,
yeah, I hear you. So what position did you play?
I played wide receiver.
Oh, man, you were the highlight reel guy.
You know what? When I was in fam, I wasn't quite the highlight reel. I was holding too many clipboards, and yeah, there was other reels. It wasn't highlight reels. But no, I when I was there, kind of a thing that built me as a person, as a man. I was great in school as far as academics. I was actually at Florida A&M on an academic scholarship.
Nice.
And it was called the Life Gets Better Scholarship. Frederick S. Humphreys was the president at the time, and he set up a situation where all his best students had automatic internships with companies, and those companies were the ones who were actually funding the scholarships for those students. And the goal was to get the students to, actually land with those companies when they graduated. It wasn't mandatory, but that was the goal. So for me, the football was just my own thing. It was my own desire to, work my way in, hopefully work my way into a starting position. The closest I ever got when I was at FAM to a starting position was the last year I played spring. I was in the top 4 receivers. So basically we ran a Gulf Coast offense, 4 wide receivers. So that spring going in on the depth chart, I actually was the 4th receiver, and it felt great until we got started with practice. And then I got bumped to like 5th or 6th, and it was a little tough. Yeah, but I mean, persevering through all of that, it was one of those things that for me, when I teach my kids, you have your goals, you strive for them. You may not necessarily always hit the mark. Never let the circumstances cause you to give up, and continue to press. There's so many people in just in society and in the world who they only make it to certain levels, and sometimes we paint it as if that's not success, but is to give the effort to make sure that you don't allow the magnitude of it all, the bigness of it all, to keep you from trying.
Right.
And as long as you give your best effort, I mean, for me to work my way into even that part of our rotation, I was not the physically most gifted. I had to work really hard, in the gym, and there was guys who it's like they wake up in the morning and they run 4.3s. All of the guys on our team at the time, they ran 4.2, 4.3. Right. And I ran a high 4.5. which is pretty fast.
That is
but
fast.
At our school at that time,
Wasn't fast enough.
it was difficult to crack the lineup. So,
I hear you.
but nonetheless, I didn't let that stop me. And by the time I finished up, I had I think, command of respect from all of my coaches and team members. And I wound up not playing the last year of eligibility that I had because I graduated on time and I had several offers from companies. So I just, went ahead and took the best one and,
took the paycheck, man.
Grown man stuff.
I hear you, man. That's it. That's it. Well, that's great. Now, when did you decide that you wanted to become an actor? When did that happen in the midst of all that?
So my getting into acting actually came after I got into music. So the chronological, I was an IT professional. I graduated college, was in the IT as to pay the bills. And I actually played semi-pro football for about 4 years. My goal was to make it to the league. I got to the point where I actually had worked out in Minnesota at the time. I worked out for the Vikings personnel coordinator, and tapes all across the league. So there was a stretch where that was kind of my side goal or side thing I worked on. And then I moved down to Atlanta and I got into music. And I actually, at the beginning of that whole, I guess, season, I tried out for American Idol. And I actually made it to, in front of Randy, Paula, and Simon.
No kidding.
And Randy and Simon, they wasn't being nice that day. They
were
was
feeling
early in the morning. They must not have had their Wheaties or they, Captain Crunch or something. It just didn't work out for me because they weren't feeling real nice that morning.
Right.
Paula was fine. And I felt like I sang, well enough. But at that point, it was actually the season that Daughtry was in it. And me and him, we actually became pretty cool. And I never forget when the show aired, he was razor thin to getting cut. And Simon said no, Paula said yes. And Randy looked at him, he said, I like his beard. I like his hat. What? He's going to go through it. And it was just, you see now, Daughtry has become, worldwide, right? And dude was great quality dude, great voice. And that's where it just goes to show, you never know how things are going to go. And I was just happy for him. And so for me, after that, I began producing music. I opened my own record label, Ren Jam Records, and I really did so just so I could put out my own album on it. And then, maybe see where it goes, if it builds or whatever. So I did that for about 3 years. And it included, performing at a bunch of local venues in Atlanta, doing a lot of promotion online. MySpace was big at the time. So, trying to up my numbers so that I could get onto the various unnamed or not unnamed, but unknown artists, top 10s or whatever. And long story short, I got burnt out. Because I was doing everything. I was producing, writing, singing, performing at the venues, had a day job. At that point I was, seeing my kids on visitation and during the summers. And so doing all of the grown man stuff while trying to pursue these things. And I got burnt out and I took some time away. And after that, I was approached by a lady actually who worked at my job, and she was in a play. And the name of the play was 3 Degrees. And she was one of the actresses who was cast. And she told me that they couldn't find a guy to play the lead. And I had mentioned just in passing, I might get into acting, now that I kind of stepped away from music and just kind of give it a try. And so she was like, yeah, you need to just come on. And I was like, well, give me a minute, maybe not yet. And probably a couple of weeks went by and they still couldn't find anybody. So she hit me back up and she was like almost aggressive at this point. Like, you need somebody, bruh. Like she was the casting director and she's gonna get fired. So I was like, okay, you know what? Let's go. Let's give it a try. And you know, they loved the performance that I put on, and I went on to be the lead for that play. And I proceeded to just kind of dabble in what was a burgeoning or growing market in Atlanta at the time. So, you know, anything from being an extra on the game to the various independent films that were, you know, out. And then I got involved in a series of plays called Black Monologues. And those are put on by Dreamcatcher Productions. And okay. I was involved in those for a couple years. And so while my goal was always to, and primarily to get to TV and film, the doors that opened first were actually more so on the stage. And so, okay. You know, I didn't go to school for acting, like, you know, that was my college experience or anything. It was something that, you know, throughout the years, I always felt like I had, you know, just a kind of a feel for being in front of people and making them laugh and entertaining. The music side, obviously, I did that, and various, you know, plays and things when I was young and throughout college, here and there, but nothing really major.
Right.
And so then, you know.
So you were natural, basically.
Say that again?
So you were natural, basically.
Yeah,
you were natural.
I mean, you know, I don't want. It was definitely something to me that did come natural, but there is still a lot of work in the small things, and especially for film. I would say, in retrospect, I was probably more of a natural for stage, because being a big personality, being big is very welcome in stage performances, because you're kind of, what you're emoting is reaching everyone who's right there.
And you get the immediate feedback as well, right?
Say that again?
And you get the immediate feedback from the crowd.
And you get the feedback from the crowd, which that's, you know, maybe not a good thing, depending on if you ain't, you know,
if you ain't doing a good job.
If you're not be putting out what you need to get the feedback, that's a problem.
Right.
That's a problem. But in film and TV, you have to draw it back and be more contained. You have to be, you know, you can't go off camera and everything, and you don't necessarily notice it as a person who's watching it over the years. But once you are in it, then you realize just those small nuances and how there's a certain amount of work and skill to that, and it takes time.
Right, so. Right. So now, what was your first break on TV, like your first televised break?
So when you say break, that's the part that's funny, because like the first TV show that I was physically on, I didn't get, you know, casted as something. I was an extra, and it was The Game. And it was so funny because when, you know, I go in and we do all the filming or whatever, and then I know what day the show is coming out, and so I'm promoting it on Facebook. Yeah, you know, your boy might be here. You might see me. If you see me, that's me. You know, that's your boy.
Hey, mama. Hey, mama.
Right. Y'all know, check. And so it was a restaurant scene, and myself and another lady across from me were at the opening scene at sitting at the table. So I'm thinking, you know, this is cool. And it was the first episode of that season, if I recall. And so I was thinking, man, it's great. You know, like we're opening the whole season, and it'll just be a nice profile of, you know, me just, you know, mingling at a table, you know, boom. And when I saw you know, when it came on, I was looking, and like literally within the first half second, the very top of my head, the backside top of my head made it on the screen. and they just completely moved over her and then hand over to whatever it was they were actually concerned about.
That was my head. That was my head.
Yeah, it was hilarious. It was hilarious in retrospect, and that's what you learn. You never know what's going to make it through the cutting floor or how it's going to wind up. And so, fast forward, I did some extra work in Being Mary Jane. That's probably the next thing that was on TV that I really, decided to commit to and spend some time. And I was on set a lot, and you actually could see me, well, and I was a coworker of Mary Jane. And so any kind of office scene, I might have been in and around and out. There was one particular episode where I was, even though I was an extra, they would place certain extras in certain positions within like the real life of Mary Jane. So some of us were put on her news team, and some were put on her competitor's news team. Others were in the control room. So I was in the control room, and I actually sat next to Ryan Hamsik, I believe is his name. And if you see today, there's I think it's an Xfinity commercial that's out with a lady who's in a tub and she's taking a bath, and then the guy comes in, he's like got red hair, and he like gets her to come out and see his kid or their kid like speaking to the remote. That's him. And so I'm sitting next to him, and there's a scene where something real dramatic happens while we're filming the news show, and they get what they call a reaction shot where somebody got shot, and then they kind of pan the control room. And I'm like, oh, man. And Regina King was the director that day. So she comes in, she's like, okay, so do you have any kids? So this is what I need you to think of if your kids got just jacked up, like if this your kids out there, somebody got shot. And I'm like, all right, okay, yeah.
I can do that.
All right. Okay, I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna be right there. So, it was the whole environment was fun. It was a learning experience. And Regina was cool in the breeze, man. She was great. And that was like, to me, one of the first times where you really saw me on, to me, was, one of the more major shows. Mm-hmm. And you knew it was me. And it's like, I'm not passing in the background. And, right. People hit me up after that show and they're like, hey. And the thing about it is, if you don't get cast for a role where you have speaking lines, then you're not considered to have landed anything. So a lot of extras, I say we, for what I was on that show, we would do work, and most actors didn't consider it any kind of accomplishment if you wound up on the TV. But your friends and any, fans that you might start to, grow and have, they didn't care. Hey,
it's like I know
him. I saw you on the and so right. It's interesting how the dynamic is different, depending on who you talk to. So within the industry, we don't pump it up as if like we landed a role. We just want people to know, hey, check the show out, you'll see me, which is different than when you actually have auditioned and the casting director chooses you. And that's what, most of us in the community really feel is an accomplishment. And it could be you just landed a role that's only one line. You just say, hey, and that's it. And if that one hey, you feel better about that one hey line than being an actor for a whole season on a show.
Right.
It's crazy. It's crazy. And, that was, I had several shows that, again, when you say big break, probably the biggest break or biggest thing, and I still wouldn't even call it necessarily a break. I said it's like the next step for me was being on the Boo Madea, the last Tyler Perry movie. But I had several other, all within, a few months, roles that I landed on Discovery Channel. And it was like an investigative show, a couple investigative shows. One on Devious Maids, where I was a warden. And then the Madea movie came up, and that was obviously a big deal.
So I was going to ask you about that one. So, what was it like working with Tyler Perry and Boo and Madea Halloween?
So allegedly, that movie was filmed in a total of 6 days.
Wow.
And being on set, I can tell you, I believe it. I was on set for one day for the scene that I was a part of. But man, Tyler Perry is a worker, man. That's one thing that I can say, that I will say. I mean, it's funny. He'll film a scene and he's as Madea, and then he's going back and he's reviewing the tape, sitting in the director's chair with the wig on and with the dress on. It's hilarious when you back off and you see what's happening here. But yeah, just boom, 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 boom. Not wasting time. He had things set up to where he could do the takes, fairly quickly back to back. And the scenes, not a lot of delay time in between scenes. And I could believe that, that was filmed that quickly. That was probably what impressed me the most about being on set. Obviously I was in a scene with him.
Yeah, remember that scene? You were a police officer answering the door.
Yeah. His daughter. His daughter was in trouble. We were basically framing or kind of faking a situation where we were going to arrest her, and something had happened to her friend. And so I show up and I got the other officer, and we interact with her father, which is Tyler Perry in the movie. And but his work ethic, it's no surprise when I was actually right there to see how he is where he is.
I mean, his story, from what I understand, is an amazing story. I mean, if I remember the story correctly, he at one point was homeless, living in Atlanta, trying to sell the whole Madea concept. He was, I think, sleeping on park benches and stuff like that, and then somebody finally picked it up, and it is where it is today. I mean, there's a half a dozen Madea movies. The guy's doing really well, so it's an amazing story.
It's crazy.
So, question for you: have you traveled a lot for your work, or has your work mostly been local in the Atlanta area?
Most of my work has been in Atlanta. One show that I filmed was in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I'm auditioning all the time. I'm still, trying to work my way up to where I regularly am booking in the various shows that are filming in the Southeast at the very least. And, obviously long term, regardless of where it's filming. But most of the work has been in the Atlanta area. There's a couple shows that are filmed in New Orleans, which I've auditioned for, and there's several that film in the Carolinas. So, as long as it's something that's within, not too far to drive to, it's pretty much you just keep putting your best foot forward until you land them.
I hear you. So now, can you name, just for my viewers, a few of the famous actors or actresses that you've met? Obviously, Tyler Perry is one of them. Who are some of the other famous actors or actresses that you've actually you've met?
Well, I mean, obviously, I sat next to Gabrielle Union and was in quite a few scenes with her. And when you say that is the
it's all relative. It's all relative, right?
It's all relative because so for instance, there's one situation where we're filming and we're in an elevator, and so Gabrielle's right there, and I'm standing like either in front of her, I think it was, and I had to take a break because there was some kind of problem in the production environment. I don't know if it's lighting or something. And we're just standing there. And, she's very professional, very focused. And so for an extra, you generally, unless the lead interacts with you proactively, you keep to yourself.
You
and
say nothing.
don't
I've heard that.
you
Yeah.
don't do anything.
Don't
So
break their focus. Don't break their train of thought.
don't annoy them. Don't break
Right.
focus. Don't do nothing.
Don't
And
ask them for this
so,
autograph. Nothing like that.
oh God, no, 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 no. So that's the thing. You know, throughout my whole time on that show, only had a couple words with her, and it was while really she was maybe having a conversation with a couple of the other leads, and I was, you know, one of the extras that happened to be sitting there in the scene and we're waiting or whatever. But never, honestly, would I say I even had a conversation directly with her. And like, yet Regina King, she directed some of the shows, so she comes on, and you know, we happen to be sitting around and talking when we're having, you know, we're on break and we're eating food, and so that was a thing where, and one time I was riding on a bus from the, you know, wherever we parked at to the set, and Regina happened to be on the bus, and we're talking about the Batman movie and who got cast as Batman and all these kind of things. So it depends on the person and the situation as to where you really even feel comfortable, you know, like really talking to them on just a personal level. Like when I was on set with Tyler Perry, he was so about business that for me to say I met him, you know what I mean? It's like I would pause to really say it that way, because we were all work. And it's like once the scene was done, it's like, okay, I'm going back to holding until I'm up for the next angle to shoot the scene, and then that's it.
Right. He had 6 days to get it all done. He had to get it in.
6 days, he's not making a bunch of side conversation. You know, he might, but if he doesn't, then it just is what it is, you know, and he's just, you just do your part and you keep moving. I was recently cast in a pilot with Lucy Hale, and she was in Pretty Little Liars, and I was cast in a role where we did a lot of interaction, and we had time to just kind of, you know, talk on the side, her, myself, and some of the other actors, Jason Blair and a few others. So I would say, like, yeah, I met Lucy Hale. I could actually say that, and feel comfortable as whatever. But yeah, I would say it's a very limited amount as far as the people I would feel I truly met. And I'm not one to go up asking for autographs or anything.
Yeah, that's not kind of cool if you're working with them. I know what you mean.
Yeah, you I mean, some people might ask for selfies and they may get them, or they may just annoy the person, and you know, it just kind of depends. One of the co-stars in Being Mary Jane, Spears, I want to say Aaron Spears was his name. He was her kind of best friend in the workplace, the confidant guy. He was homosexual in the show. Anyway, he was very, very personable with all of the extras. Like, he made sure when, you know, we were just on break and he happened to be walking through, he would thank everybody for, you know, everything that they do, and, you know, not overlooking them. And I believe in part, you know, it's got to be because he, at some point in his career, understood the grind of it.
At that level, right.
So, right. And so I had some a couple conversations with him here and there. And just a real cool dude, real down to earth. And so, you know, again, it just depends. It depends on the person, whether or not they have the time, make the time, you know, to kind of engage with, whether it be, you know, lower level day players. Day player is a person who just kind of does they're cast for one day on the show as a special person or whatever, or extras, or they may interact with those who are actual regular leads day in, day out.
Right. Now, so a lot of actors have, maybe role models is not a good choice of words, but someone who they look at as, you know, that's the style of acting, or that's the skill set that I admire. Is there a certain actor or actress that you see as a role model, somebody who has a style or technique that you admire and you kind of try to emulate?
So the question is a difficult one, because in my nature, I very much am a comedian. I like to laugh. I like to make people laugh. If I'm just on my own on the side, whatever. We're just hanging out. That just comes out. And when it comes to, what roles I might be requested to audition for, they may be cop roles, where it's nothing funny about it. You sliding in humor there's no place. So, so with regards to the aspect of what I would like to, it depends. I'm not able to always be a particular type of character that I might like to be. That being said, I'll just say Denzel is one of my favorites as far as just classic good actors. And there's a certain style that he has. I wouldn't say that for me I try to emulate it, but I just try to learn from him and his professionalism and how he's been able to work his way up to a point where he's so reliable. He's just so reliable that he's, when you see Fences, it's no surprise that he gives that performance to where it's like, man, we don't even need to give you an award because you've been so great for so long. Like, we don't even need to give you. We'll give awards to these other young guys who are coming up. You'll be all right. You all right, right?
Right.
And so, but I just appreciate, and I try to take notes. Will Smith is another one, repping at West Philly.
There you go. I hear you.
But he's again, he's one where he went from being just hip hop artist to kind of the fun comedic TV personality on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air to just expanding and reaching and never allowing himself to be put in a box. And when I was in music, my stage name was Renaissance. One of the reasons is because when I was young, when I was in like the 4th grade, I learned about Paul Robeson, I believe it was, and his nickname was Renaissance Man. And when I was that age, I felt like, why is it that I'd only be able to be one thing when I grow up? I'm fast. I like to, play sports. I'm one of the best, smartest kids in my class. I get, great grades, and I like science and math. I'm good at art. And so why is it that I only need to be one thing? So I got into music. I produced, I wrote, I sang, I rapped. And so it was like, why should I? So I said, you know what? Renaissance. There you go. Boom. That's going to be my stage name. And when I look at myself now, even my goal from an acting standpoint is to be able to break some of those, pigeonholes that, many actors, they make a lot of money just being pigeonholed and they're fine with it. I know for me, a goal is to flex in comedic and then turn around and flex in drama. When you talked about the breakthrough, it was a web series actually, which was more of my first big on camera regular thing, but it wasn't TV. But the name of the show was Black and Single. And if you Google Black and Single episodes, you can pull them up, and it was just a hilarious show. And so that was, more of a comedic side for me, and it was a drama comedy, romantic comedy drama. And so being able to, ultimately you want to get to a place where you are the person that people are comparing others to. But in the meanwhile, I just, I try to learn from everybody. Just learn from everybody that I watch and enjoy, just naturally consuming TV and movies.
Right. Well, it's funny when I asked you that question, the first person I thought of was Denzel. I mean, I saw Fences. I don't think there's anything he's done that I haven't seen that's been on film. I mean, I remember watching, I think the first movie where I really noticed who Denzel was his performance in Glory.
Yeah.
That scene where he's he's standing there and the guy's whipping him and he just won't budge. He won't give the guy the pleasure of seeing pain. That shook me. And then
that's it. Yep.
I've watched everything else he's done since then, including Training Day, which is where he got his finally got his accolades playing the bad guy. And You know, it was
Gotta
funny
be
that
a bad guy.
he had to go that way to get people to really, you know, give him an award, which was interesting because you never see him in that kind of a role. So it was a departure from his normal type of a role. So,
Yep.
do you ever get recognized in public? I know the roles you've played haven't been like, you know, the lead roles or anything like that, but do people recognize and say, wait a second, I know you from somewhere. Your face looks familiar, but I don't know where now to place it. Does that ever happen to you?
So here's the thing about that.
Here's the thing about that.
Before I got into acting, you know, if I was going out, I might randomly have people say, you know what, you look like R. Kelly. And I used to wear a Kango hat, and it's like, okay, I get it. Or, you know, you look like Common, or you look, you know, so I get a lot of the who you look likes. That's happened all my adult life, I feel like. But I actually, it's funny to me when I saw, you know, how you put together the ad for this show, and it said, you know, friend and local celebrity, and I'm thinking that local part, that's a thorough qualifier right there, because that means there's a lot to be said for local, because you can just walk anywhere and nobody know who you are. So is it really celebrity? I don't know. But yeah, one time I was in the gym, and this was when Black and Single, the web series I talked about, was edits. Like, I was just working out, you know, it's my business. This guy comes up, he's like, hey man, you Dre, ain't you? I was like, yeah, I'm Dre. What's up, man? He's like, man, when y'all gonna put out another episode, man? I've been waiting. And so that kind of a thing, honestly, very, very rare that happens. And, you know, it's fine. You know, when it happens, you know, hopefully I have the energy to be the gracious, you know, take selfies with people and sign all the autographs and all that. Yeah. But as of right now, oh no, I can go up in Chipotle, the mall. I can go anywhere I want.
No one's harassing you, right?
I'm just a tall, brown skinned dude. I may be kind of okay looking, maybe, but that's it. And it's funny because people, because you know, I'm a confident person. You know, I'm a clean, stand upright, whatever. And they may not really know me at all, or have seen me in anything. But sometimes people will think they know me from somewhere, and it's like, no, you don't know me. If you ain't seen this show, you know, you probably don't know me. Right. But there's going to come a day where it actually will be the case. It is like, you may have seen me on this show or that show, or I'm familiar. I don't just look like somebody. I actually am the guy you saw.
I'm the guy you saw, right?
Yep.
And I can go back and say I interviewed that guy once before when he was just starting out. Now he doesn't know who I am from a hole in the wall.
Yep.
If you could choose, what role would be the role that you'd like to play the most?
Maybe like a Hancock, where there's some action, there's a comedic element, but there's suspense and there's drama, all within that one character. Like, to really be able to delve into all of those aspects of, you know, range as an actor. And for that movie to actually, you know, really be well received. And
yeah, no, I like Hancock. I have that in my collection. I really like that movie.
It's just it's a great. I mean, Will, man, he's done some great stuff.
He has. I mean, did you see Earth Ever After? Is it Earth Ever After? Or After Earth? After Earth.
Yeah, I believe it or not, I actually have not seen that one yet.
Yeah, he's in that one. That's a M. Night Shyamalan, or I'm not sure I'm saying his name right, but it's an M. Night Shyamalan
with his son, right?
That's the one. Yeah, it didn't do very well in the theater, but I loved it. I thought it was great. I have that in my collection too.
Okay, yeah, that, you know, there are some movies where I do let Rotten Tomatoes dictate whether or not I'm going to take the time, and I did on that one. So maybe that's an L on my part. I had to give Will a little bit of a second chance on that one. We'll have to give him a second chance.
Yeah, I'm a big Will Smith fan. I mean, when I had heard a few years ago that and I may get this wrong, but he either was an honorary member or he had applied to or was accepted into MIT. I
Oh,
did
okay.
not. Yeah, I did not know he's an exceptionally intelligent guy. You would not know it because of the Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and when he was the Fresh Prince and Jazz, Jazz Jeff when I was growing up, because I remember listening to them growing up, and you wouldn't
Mhm.
know how intelligent that guy is. He's a very intelligent guy.
It's interesting because a number of successful people in entertainment, they are very smart, and you wouldn't know it based on what their persona is necessarily or the nature of whatever entertainment they produce. I want to say I heard that about Wheezy, that he was, very well educated, and then, got into hip hop, and you look at him and it's like, what? Wheezy?
Yeah.
Y'all lying.
Seriously?
Stop messing with me. Y'all lying, Wheezy.
Right. With name like
Stop.
Wheezy.
But yeah, I hadn't gone back recently to double check if I heard that wrong. But yeah, I remember hearing that, and several others. That absolutely very intelligent, and it allows them to be smart about how they perform. And witty comedy, obviously, it takes a high level of intelligence to really be able to pull it off from the timing standpoint, understanding the punchlines, all of that, and then translating that into an actual performance.
Right. That the audience will grasp.
Mhm.
Have you ever considered writing a screenplay or maybe directing?
I have, and I do plan to do that. I haven't really launched out into that yet. I for the day job, do a lot of writing, just in communications and everything, over the course of the years. And in my social media presence, at times I would get into writing. Obviously, when I was in music, I would write, and that would be specific to songs, etc. But and I was in a play, or a stage production, called The Mike Ben Show. And at the time, part of for all of the members, what we were asked to do is to write a couple scenes. And the show consists of multiple just humorous skits. It was like an In Living Color type show, but it's on stage. And so that was probably the first time where I really went ahead and put together a whole scene, top to bottom, beginning to end, and it had music and it had everything. But from then on, there's a couple, ideas that I want to flesh out into full screenplays. Some of them based on true life, others, just some concepts that I hadn't seen put out there yet. But it's all in time. I gotta one step after the other. Excuse me. And when it's right, so I'm going to devote the time to it.
I hear you. I mean, yeah, there's a lot of balls to keep in the air to make all these things happen, right?
Yeah. I'm really right now. I've been focused on steadily getting in front of all the casting directors, who are, a part of the shows that are being produced, the movies that are, being brought to town to be produced. And, the more you get in front of them as an actor, the rule is, it's like a numbers game. You may not, land anything for the first couple of years. Raven Drummer, I auditioned for her, and she's the casting director for Tyler Perry. I auditioned for her for 5 years before I landed something. And so you just never know. But the main thing is never give up. You just keep going in front and you. And that means they're pulling for you. And a lot of times it's just about, are you the right fit? Right. I know sometimes I'm 6'2". Sometimes I'm too tall for certain roles. And you just never know if you're going to be cast next to someone who's short, but in the film or TV show, they need to seem like they're tall.
Right. Like Kevin Hart?
Kevin Hart or Tom Cruise. I mean, there's
Right.
some shows where myself, I would look at things now as a student and as an actor, and it's like, I see what they did there. He looks way taller right now.
Right, staying in the soapbox.
Right, and as a person who's just watching it for entertainment purposes, you're not paying attention to that. He just walked in the room and walked out of the room, you know.
Yeah.
But those elements do affect, you know, whether or not you are fit for a part. And so, for myself, you know, it's just continuing to keep at it, you know.
I hear you. Now, I know that it's become sort of like the Hollywood of the East to a certain degree. A lot of movies and TV shows and so on are shot here. But what's the acting scene in Atlanta like from the perspective of somebody who's acting here? Is there lots of work here? Is there just a certain type of work that's here, but the rest of it's kind of out in Hollywood? Like, what's it like here? What's it like to be in the acting scene here in Atlanta?
I haven't checked the numbers recently, but I believe it was maybe early last year, Atlanta moved to be the third largest production city, I want to say, maybe it was in North America or it was in the United States. It might have been in North America because there's a lot of filming that happens in Canada as well. There's a lot of work, and it's all kinds, TV shows, there's tons of independent films, web shows, web series, etc. You add on to that all the various stage plays that get put together. There's a ton going on. As of last year, I joined SAG-AFTRA, Screen Actors Guild, and I, as a result of that, I am not eligible to participate in most of the independent projects that are produced here anymore. But there's still, you know, I'm getting auditions all the time for the various shows that are being produced here. I believe I've talked to a number of actors in the last couple of years who either were primarily in LA when they started acting and moved here, or who moved from here to LA to work here, they moved back. And so, yeah, there's enough work here to where what I constantly hear when I interact with, you know, those who have been in the game for a while and they've, you know, they've escalated or matriculated to being the more noticeable folks in shows, they're making the comments that, yeah, so much work is here. Some of us are, you know, considering moving here because there's so much work here. Still, LA is number one. New York is still, you know, big, obviously, but yeah, Atlanta's huge.
Yeah, it's funny because, and you think also about the TV shows, like, you know, a lot of my friends and family are huge fans of The Walking Dead, and The Walking Dead it's shot here. I mean, I've been to Sonoya where they have a lot of the sets there, and they have the official Walking Dead store. And all my friends who watch the show always ask me, "Have you ever run into anybody who works in the show?" I'm like, "No." You know,
Right.
I don't run in those circles. You know, I'm not on the inside of those circles. But so here's a question for you. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Obviously, talking about, you know, acting as that part of your career. Where would you like to see yourself in 10 years?
Where I'd like to see myself is being a household name. I remember his name is escaping me. The guy who plays Thor. He said one time in an interview, he said, man, something along the lines of, LA was crap before I landed the Thor role. And I think the point of what he was saying during that interview and what they wrote in the article was that basically prior to his big break, you know, he was treated like just whatever. And one thing that, you know, actors, you know, what we learn, what we're taught early on is that this is a career that you have to be so thick-skinned, and you have to, you know, really be about perseverance and kind of a work-life balance, if you will, to where it doesn't consume you if you don't get a part. It doesn't consume you if things don't go the way you want them to go, because you got to be able to get back up and push for the next thing. And knowing that it takes time. Cranston, he said from Breaking Bad, he said in an interview one time, when he goes into an audition, to be sure to give them an experience. And that's your only job. Give them the experience. And if you get the role, you get the role. If you don't, you don't. Several other actors talk about the career of an actor is anywhere from 5 to 15 years as far as trying to build yourself to where you are able to have that big break. So for me, in 10 years, I'd like to finally, by then have my big break. I'd definitely like to have my big break. But for me, what I do know is continuing to have the mindset that you don't give up. You continue to press. There's no, from what I've seen, there's no one way to make it, but there's one way to guarantee not making it, and that's to give up. And so you just continue until your time comes. And so, I believe my time is coming, and I just got to keep grinding.
Oh, I'm sure your time is coming, man. I mean, I'm excited about the stuff that you're doing, and I was looking forward to having this interview anyway. So, and great that you were able to join us here and share some of your experience. So, before we wrap up, Chris, are there any plugs that you'd like to make? Now, I did make a few notes as you were talking. Do you still have? Was it called Ran Jan Records?
Ren Jam Records is defunct.
It's defunct. Okay, all right. So we're not plugging that right now.
Ren Jam, we laid that to rest several years ago. It's funny, if you go on, there's various online places now. CD Baby is where I actually had my CD distributed through. And through that, if you just Google Renaissance with a Z at the end instead of CE, you actually can work your way to various pages where my music is actually there. And, at this point, it's just free music. But nah, Ren Jam Records, that's done. So there's no need to plug Ren Jam Records right now. All right. If I get back to it, I'll let everybody know. Got some new stuff. Right. Not yet. Not right now. And that reminds me, Sean, I want to say, my lovely lady, she always reminds me that I've done a lot up till now. I always talk about, you mentioned the question about big breaks, so I feel like, well, my big break, I ain't quite there yet. But, to have been in a movie, box office #1, I want to say for a couple weeks, Boom Madea was, and to have been on, various networks now, recently cast for a pilot that's on CW, or that they're going to be pitching for CW, and I had as intermediate goals, first just be on TV, then get cast and have a speaking role on TV, get cast as a speaking role in a movie, and so those smaller goals I've accomplished, and I don't want to not highlight and make sure that I appreciate what I've made it up until now. And while I do have my eye on the prize,
stepping stones to get there. You got to take your stepping
stones.
Yes, sir.
Yep, stepping stones.
Yep. You learn along the way. All right, listen, man. Thank you so much for being here for this interview. You and I are buddies offline, so I definitely appreciate you being here. I'm looking forward to seeing you whatever comes up next. So you need to let me know so I can push it and promote it with my viewers. Anything else you want to say before we wrap up here?
Hey, I just appreciate everybody taking the time to check out your boy Chris Mason. Y'all gonna see me somewhere. I promise you. I'm not Yeah, I'll keep you posted, man. As different things come up that I land, I do try to push those things on various social media channels, and we're connected. So I'll definitely make sure to get it out to you so you can push it on your show for sure.
I'd be glad to. Thank you, sir. All right, man. Listen, Chris, thank you so much. If you have any discussion topic ideas that you would like to see us tackle, please tweet your ideas to @GentlemanUnite6. Please like, share, and subscribe by clicking this icon right here. If you enjoyed the show and want to see more, click right here. Thanks again for joining Gentlemen United in the Man Cave.
Enjoyed the show? Like, share and subscribe. And thanks for joining us in the Man Cave.